this week on The Bachelor.
And now.
And I can tell you that, like, right now, like, I am the most in love with you.
You're on the cover of my book with a heart on it, for Christ's sake. Like, you're my number one.
You did say to, like, explore, like, the relationships. And
Why am I getting, like, I guess, like, beat up about? It's like, you, like, this is the whole experience.
And I don't...
if you cared so much about me, if you really actually thought I was the person, like, if it was really true, like, I would think you would work through something like this.
If this little hiccup is, like, that big of a deal and, like, that changes everything, then, like, maybe this is not what we thought it was, I guess.
This is out of character for me. It's just because I cared so much and I really did love you.
I'm here to, like, try to, like, find my wife, and it's like I'm giving everything I have to it, and I'm a very passionate person.
I'm not trying to place any extra blame on you, but the fact of the matter is like, I don't even know who I'm looking at anymore.
Listen, if you think I'm a dick, I feel like that's kind of weird, no offense, but...
I don't agree with it at all, how you went about this. I think it's BS.
This is not fair. It's not fair at all.
I'm done. There's
Like-
nothing, we're not getting anything else out of what we're saying anymore.
So I'm almost done with this whole situation right now. I'm gonna leave.
Well, everything's gone to crap, and welcome back to another Bachelor recap, this time for whatever's left of the season as it's all come crumbling down, and we finally witnessed Clayton and Susie's fantasy suite disaster, which, boy, was an absolute mess. But before we get to all of that, of course there are two other fantasy suites to get to. And yes, I'm still recovering, so I'm going to try and keep things nice and concise, as there is a lot to talk about, especially at the end. I've also opted to skip over the women tell-all, but if you missed it, most of what went down was everyone arguing with Shanae.
From the bottom of my heart, you, Shanae. Really? Like, you can go rot in Ohio for all I care.
And at the end, Kira here shoots her shot with Clayton in the event he's single, which is followed by Teddy making this ominous comment.
I am in a unique position where I do know a lot of things, so I think I'll just leave it at, I hope that you're okay.
So yeah, something tells me this is not gonna end well. But to start this episode off, Clayton and the gang are headed to Iceland, the final filming location of the season, where Clayton is just super excited to see his final three, and the final three are... Okay, so first up for their fantasy suite is Rachel, and she'll be meeting with Clayton for a helicopter ride over to a volcano that they'll actually be going inside of. But the main storyline all through this episode isn't actually the time that Clayton's spending on these dates. Instead, it's Susie back at the hotel, who starts saying stuff like this the moment Rachel leaves.
If I find out that he's falling in love with other women, or that he has become physically intimate with another woman, that would be devastating.
And while Clayton and Rachel head into the night portion of their date, where Clayton pulls this fake out in front of Rachel,
I've kind of come to terms, like, with what I am feeling. And I kind of wish I had told you earlier. I'll just come out and say, like, I'm falling in love with you.
While all of that is going on, Gabby and Susie are left to wonder how things are going, with Gabby being cool with it all while Susie's getting progressively more uncomfortable.
I want the person I'm going to be with to explore other relationships and to on purpose choose me. I'm like, do it.
I don't know that I feel the same way.
And this whole episode weaves in and out of fantasy suites and then back to Susie. Like they cut to Clayton and Rachel making out on a bed in their fantasy suite, then right back to Susie saying,
If Clayton thinks that it's me at the end of this and then proceeds to sleep with another woman, I would have a really hard time moving forward.
And just about the only person more uncomfortable than Susie right now is Rachel's dad Tony watching this back home like,
No, don't like that.
So Rachel and Clayton wake up together, cook some breakfast, and both proclaim their love for one another.
I love you!
I love you too, Rachel!
And with that out of the way, it's now time for the ever-awkward contestant returning from their overnight while they all pretend to not know what happened the night before. Eventually, Susie asks,
What'd you do?
and all the while, Rachel's over here looking like... And then Rachel responds with this.
I know this is really awkward, and I respect you guys so much.
Same. Yeah. All respect each other.
Yeah. I'm really sorry in advance.
Okay, now right here is the moment you can see Susie's soul leave her body. Next up for their fantasy suite date is Gabby, because of course production's going to make Susie go last. For Gabby and Clayton's date, they're going to be riding around the beach in dune buggies, and I'm sorry. I gotta be honest, Gabby's my girl, but I was really just coasting through this date waiting for Susie's. Not a whole heck of a lot happens here. They spend most of their date talking about their feelings and how Gabby's been so open with hers, even though so many people just label her as silly and goofy. However, her being so vulnerable has led to Clayton saying this.
You know, I've realized that, like, you know, I'm falling in love with you. I am.
Well, you know what that means. Time to head into the fantasy suite, and time to cut back to Susie. And just like with Rachel, production cuts to Gabby and Clayton getting it on, and then cuts back to Susie like...
I'm just spiraling emotionally.
Alright, production must be trying to win themselves an Emmy with how they set up Susie on this spiral staircase to say, I'm spiraling emotionally. But with Gabby and Clayton's fantasy suite date going so well, it's another morning after and another declaration of love from Clayton.
I just want you to know that I am falling in love, and it feels so good.
And of course, all of this means another awkward morning after with the ladies.
She's got bad head.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, over in Clayton's room,
You got sex hair. You got it from me, girl. Sex hair.
but alright, it's finally time for the last fantasy suite with Susie, and even Mother Nature's out here like, whoa, okay, there's a storm coming, watch out. Now for the first part of their date, these two are going to be spending a day at the Sky Lagoon Spa and Hot Springs, where Susie is starting to wonder if all her worries were for nothing. Seeing Clayton and undergoing cold mists and hot saunas has really distracted her from the apprehension that she's been feeling so far. But at the end of the day, she realizes if they're a week away from a potential engagement, Susie needs to address her concerns. But at the night portion of their date, Clayton, on the other hand, is finally ready to tell Susie he's not just falling in love with her, he's in love.
It's no longer about me falling in love with you. Like, I am in love with you.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Susie is surprised to hear this, but before she can say anything back, she needs to let Clayton know about where she's at with her expectations.
Do you feel that same way with somebody else? Or have you, like, slept with another woman? Like, those are things that, like...
Okay, now right here is the moment you can see Clayton's soul leave his body. Susie then starts to get a little concerned when she finishes her sentence and Clayton looks like this. Well, Susie continues to say she doesn't think she can go forward if Clayton said I love you too or slept with any of the other women. Meanwhile, Clayton feels shocked because he thought Susie told him to explore things. But ultimately, he has to tell her the truth.
I have slept with someone else here. And yes, I've expressed feelings towards someone else of falling in love.
Now, for Susie, she doesn't understand how Clayton could hold feelings of full-on love for her and then decide to sleep with anyone else. And Clayton is crushed to hear that she's thinking of leaving, especially considering he's, quote, the most in love with her.
I have such strong feelings for you, like very strong feelings. And I can tell you that, like, right now, like, I am the most in love with you.
Gosh, I hope he's not at home right now watching this with Rachel or Gabby, cause that would be bad. So Susie, again, is surprised to hear this.
Like, I honestly, like, don't feel like I knew how strongly you felt.
Okay, me too. Like, where did this deep love suddenly come from? Obviously, they didn't just edit it all out because Susie is wondering this too. Which, according to Susie, is also one of the reasons why she never brought this up with Clayton earlier. She had no clue his feelings were this deep. And it's here that Susie also says she didn't want to be the person giving Clayton an ultimatum, another reason she didn't bring this up earlier, but ultimately she can't get past Clayton sleeping with another woman and telling them he loves her. And this is where everything starts to turn. Clayton then tries to explain that him sleeping with another woman is not just a random thing, but because he's in love and needs to explore their physical connection.
Me sleeping with both was because I've somehow fallen in love with 3 women and it makes 0 sense to me.
Okay, when he said both...
You guys are talking?
But Susie can't shake her feelings about the situation, and Clayton wishes he would have known she felt this strongly earlier instead of like a week out from a potential engagement. All of this is a mess, but here are my thoughts. Clayton having sex with the other women is his choice. Susie not liking that and being uncomfortable is her choice. Would it have been easier if she told him that earlier? Sure, absolutely. But it's not just about sex too, he also said I love you to 2 other women. Regardless, I've seen this narrative with fantasy suites before. One side of Bachelor Nation saying this is a show, they know what they signed up for, and the other saying Susie has every right to not want her future husband sleeping with the other women. And my crystal ball tells me we'll be having this conversation all over again in a future season. But here's the deal. Whether it's Clayton, whether it's Hannah Brown, choosing to have sex in the fantasy suite is a choice that shouldn't be shamed, as long as you're not an ass about it. Being uncomfortable with the Bachelor sleeping with the other women is also not wrong, as long as you're not an ass about it. And I wish we could have a more nuanced conversation about the first half of this argument to discuss where the wrong is on whatever side, but I feel like we can't because partway through, Clayton is an ass about it.
In my eyes, you just invalidated everything. I'm not trying to place any extra blame on you, but the fact of the matter is I don't even know who I'm looking at anymore. I don't agree with it at all, how you went about this. I think it's BS. At some point, I'll end up finding somebody that actually will stick through it and will understand me for who I am.
I don't care what side of this you're on, to put the whole blame on Susie is just not it. And while Clayton says he's done and guides Susie to the back of an SUV, he uses his faith to bludgeon Susie as she goes.
Because of my faith, I believe everything happens for a reason. And I'm just going to take that and move forward in my life and realize that, I had to go through this.
I just felt like that was unnecessary and a bit of a low blow. Especially if he knows that Susie is a person of faith too, but even if she isn't. Ultimately though, there's a truth that needs to be said. Breakups can bring out the worst in people. Clayton's actions from this point onward, as we head into the finale and the after the final rose, will be the most telling. But whatever goes down, Susie's last word as she's sent home speaks volumes.
I just thought we would have been better at getting through that conversation kindly.
So, Susie is gone, and it's here where the episode ends, with Clayton questioning everything.
Everything is invalidated to me right now. This whole thing, nothing, my heart's not in it anymore. My heart's out. It's out, it's done. It's over. It's over.
So that's it for Fantasy Suite Week of The Bachelor, and what a wild week it was. I hope you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe if you did, and be on the lookout for one last preview breakdown for the season, as next week we have another 2 episodes coming, yes, a 2-part finale. So, until next video, Bachelor Fantake, out.
You got 6 hair.